The rain-slick streets of Manhattan gleamed under the neon glow. But inside brew and bliss, Clara's heart raced faster than the storm outside. She wiped her hands on her apron, stealing a glance at the woman in the corner booth, Eleanor, the enigma who ordered a black coffee every evening at 6:15 sharp. Tonight, Eleanor's emerald eyes held something new, a spark of desperation. Clara, 25, had worked at the cozy Greenwich Village coffee shop for 3 years, her dreams of becoming a painter buried under bills and long shifts. Her auburn curls were perpetually messy, her freckled cheeks flushed from the heat of the espresso machine. She was used to serving hurried New Yorkers, but Eleanor, 32, was different, polished, poised, and always alone, her tailored suit screaming wealth and power. Clara had caught herself sketching Eleanor's sharp jawline in her sketchbook more than once, though she'd never admit it. "Another black coffee?" Clara called, her voice teasing as she leaned over the counter. Eleanor looked up from her laptop, her lips twitching into a rare half-smile. "Make it quick, artist," Eleanor replied, her tone dry but warm. The nickname had started weeks ago when Clara accidentally left her sketchbook open, revealing a drawing of the shop's vintage chandelier. Eleanor had noticed and remembered. As Clara handed over the steaming cup, their fingers brushed. A jolt shot through her, and she swore Eleanor's composed facade faltered for a split second. Before Clara could say anything, Eleanor slid a sleek business card across the counter. "Meet me after your shift. I have a proposition." Clara's brow furrowed. "Proposition? What, like a job?" She tucked a curl behind her ear, curiosity piqued. Eleanor's smile was cryptic. "Something better. 9 p.m. Don't be late." The rest of Clara's shift was a blur. She spilled a latte, burned her hand on the steamer, and couldn't stop glancing at the clock. When 9 p.m. finally arrived, she found Eleanor waiting outside in a black trench coat, her silhouette stark against the glowing city. The rain had stopped, leaving the air heavy with possibility. "Walk with me," Eleanor said, her voice low. They strolled down Bleecker Street, the hum of nightlife surrounding them. Eleanor's heels clicked with purpose, but her hands fidgeted, a rare crack in her armor. "I need a fiancé," Eleanor said abruptly, stopping under a street lamp. Clara froze, her heart stuttering. "A what?" Clara laughed, assuming it was a joke. But Eleanor's face was deadly serious. "My family's company, Sterling Enterprises, is under scrutiny. My board thinks I'm too unstable to lead because I'm single. They want tradition, stability, a wife." Eleanor's voice dripped with disdain. "I need someone to play the part for 6 months. Public appearances, a few events, nothing more. You'd be well compensated." Clara blinked, processing the absurdity. "You're hiring me to be your fake fiancé? Why me?" Eleanor hesitated, her gaze softening. "You're authentic. People like you. And I trust you." Her words hung in the air, vulnerable and raw. Clara's mind raced. The money could pay off her student loans, fund her art, change her life. But pretending to love someone like Eleanor, someone she already felt an unsettling pull toward, was dangerous. "What's the catch?" she asked, crossing her arms. "No catch," Eleanor said. "Just don't fall for me." Her smirk was playful, but her eyes betrayed a flicker of fear. Clara snorted. "Deal. I'm not into ice queens anyway." But as they shook hands, her pulse told a different story. The next week was a whirlwind. Eleanor's team transformed Clara's life overnight. A sleek black car whisked her to a Fifth Avenue penthouse, where stylists fitted her with designer dresses and diamond earrings. She barely recognized herself in the mirror, her usual jeans replaced by silk gowns. Eleanor, meanwhile, was a master of control, coaching Clara on how to smile for cameras, what to say at galas, and how to dodge probing questions. Their first public appearance was a charity ball at the Met. Clara clung to Eleanor's arm, her heart pounding as flashbulbs popped. Eleanor leaned in, her breath warm against Clara's ear. "You're doing great. Just keep smiling." The words felt like a lifeline, but Clara couldn't ignore the heat of Eleanor's touch. At the ball, Clara met Eleanor's family, her cold, calculating mother Vivian and her smug brother James, who eyed Clara like she was a puzzle to solve. "Charming choice," James sneered, sipping champagne. "Where'd you find her, Eleanor?" "A thrift store." Clara bristled, but Eleanor's hand tightened on hers. "She's more real than you'll ever be, James," Eleanor shot back, her voice steel. Clara's chest warmed at the defense, though she reminded herself it was all part of the act. As the night wore on, they danced. Eleanor's hand rested on Clara's waist, guiding her effortlessly across the floor. For a moment the world faded, the cameras, the whispers, the pretense. Clara looked into Eleanor's eyes and saw something unguarded, something real. "You're not as cold as you pretend to be," Clara whispered. Eleanor's lips parted, but before she could respond, a reporter interrupted, snapping a photo. The moment shattered. Back at the penthouse, Clara kicked off her heels, exhausted. "This is harder than I thought," she admitted, flopping onto a velvet couch. Eleanor poured 2 glasses of wine, handing one to Clara. "You're a natural," Eleanor said softly. "Thank you. For tonight." Clara studied her, the city lights reflecting in Eleanor's eyes. "Why do you do it? All this pressure, this game." Eleanor sighed, swirling her wine. "It's what I was born into. Sterling Enterprises is my legacy. But sometimes..." Her voice trailed off and Clara saw the weight she carried, a woman trapped by expectation, hiding her true self. Clara reached out, touching Eleanor's hand. "You don't have to hide with me." Eleanor froze, then pulled away. "Good night, Clara," she said, her voice tight. But as she walked away, Clara caught the faintest tremble in her shoulders. The arrangement was supposed to be simple, 6 months, no strings. But as Clara lay awake that night, her heart racing, she knew she was already in too deep. And somewhere, in the quiet of her own room, Eleanor was fighting the same battle. Weeks into the charade, Clara found herself caught in a web of glamour and deception. The city buzzed with rumors about Eleanor Sterling's whirlwind romance, and Clara's face was plastered across tabloids. She'd gone from pouring coffee to dodging paparazzi, her life unrecognizable. Yet, beneath the glitz, something unspoken grew between her and Eleanor, a current neither dared name. Their days were a blur of staged moments, holding hands at art gallery openings, laughing for cameras at rooftop parties, sharing staged whispers that felt too real. Clara played her part well, but every touch, every glance from Eleanor chipped away at her resolve. She'd catch Eleanor staring when she thought Clara wasn't looking, her guarded expression softening into something almost tender. One evening they attended a fundraiser at a Brooklyn botanical garden. Fairy lights twinkled above, and the air smelled of jasmine. Clara, in a flowing emerald dress, felt like she'd stepped into a dream. Eleanor, stunning in a cream suit, never left her side. As they posed for photos, Eleanor's arm slipped around Clara's waist, her fingers lingering longer than necessary. "You're stealing the show," Eleanor murmured, her voice low. Clara's cheeks warmed, and she laughed to cover the flutter in her chest. "Just doing my job, boss," she teased, but her eyes betrayed her. Eleanor's gaze held hers, and for a moment the crowd vanished. The moment was shattered when Vivian, Eleanor's mother, approached, her icy stare cutting through the warmth. "Eleanor, a word," she said, pulling her daughter aside. Clara overheard snippets, Vivian questioning Clara's pedigree, warning Eleanor about distractions. Clara's stomach twisted. She was a prop, a means to an end. Yet, why did Eleanor's defense of her feel so personal? Later, as they walked through the garden, Eleanor was quiet, her jaw tight. Clara nudged her. "You okay? Your mom's intense." Eleanor sighed, stopping by a fountain. "She's always been like this. Nothing's ever enough." She hesitated, then added, "She thinks you're temporary." Clara's heart sank, but she forced a grin. "Well, I am, right? 6 months and I'm out." Eleanor's eyes darkened. "Is that what you want?" The question hung between them, heavy with meaning. Clara opened her mouth, but no words came. Before she could respond, Eleanor's phone buzzed, a work emergency. She excused herself, leaving Clara alone with her racing thoughts. The next day, Clara returned to Brew and Bliss for a rare shift, craving normalcy. Her coworker, Mia, grinned as she tied her apron. "So, how's life as a trophy fiancé?" Clara rolled her eyes. "It's complicated." She didn't mention the sleepless nights, the way Eleanor's laugh made her heart ache, or the growing fear that this was more than a job. That evening, Eleanor showed up at the coffee shop, unannounced. She looked out of place in her designer coat, her usual composure frayed. "I need to talk to you," she said, her voice urgent. They sat in the back booth, The shop quiet except for the hum of the espresso machine. Eleanor leaned forward, her hands clasped tightly. I'm sorry about last night. My mother, she doesn't understand. She never has. Clara frowned. Understand what? Eleanor hesitated, her voice barely above a whisper. Me. Who I am. What I want. She looked at Clara, her eyes raw. I've spent my life hiding, Clara. The company, the expectations. I've never let myself feel anything real. Clara's breath caught. And now? Eleanor reached for her hand, then stopped, pulling back. Now I don't know how to stop feeling. The confession hung in the air, fragile and electric. Clara wanted to reach out, to bridge the gap, but fear held her back. This wasn't part of the deal. Instead, she said, You don't have to hide with me, Eleanor. Eleanor's smile was bittersweet. You make it sound so simple. Their conversation was cut short by a customer, but the weight of Eleanor's words lingered. Over the next few days, their interactions grew heavier, charged with unspoken truths. Clara began noticing small things: Eleanor's habit of tucking her hair behind her ear when nervous, the way she hummed jazz tunes absent-mindedly. Each detail pulled Clara deeper into a dangerous territory. Real feelings. One night, after a tense board meeting, Eleanor invited Clara to her penthouse. They sat on the balcony, the city sprawling below. Eleanor opened up about her childhood, her father's death, her mother's relentless ambition, the pressure to be perfect. Clara shared her own story growing up in a small Ohio town, her love for art, her fear of never being enough. You're more than enough, Eleanor said softly, her hand brushing Clara's. This time neither pulled away. Their fingers intertwined, and Clara felt the world shift. But the moment was fleeting. The next morning, a tabloid headline screamed, Sterling heiress fake romance exposed. Someone had leaked details of their arrangement, Clara's background, the contract, everything. Eleanor's phone rang non-stop, her face pale as she scanned the article. Who did this? Clara asked, her voice shaking. Eleanor's eyes were hard. James. It has to be him. The betrayal cut deep, but Clara's heart ached more for Eleanor, who looked like her world was crumbling. We'll fix this, Clara said, grabbing her hand. Together. Eleanor looked at her, vulnerable and fierce. Why are you still here, Clara? You could walk away. Clara swallowed, her voice steady. Because I don't want to. The scandal exploded across New York. Headlines screamed of deception, and social media dissected Clara and Eleanor's every move. Clara's phone buzzed with notifications, strangers calling her a gold digger, others praising her as a modern Cinderella. She ignored it all, her focus on Eleanor, who hadn't left her office in days. Clara pushed through the glass doors of Sterling Enterprises, ignoring the stares of employees. She found Eleanor at her desk, surrounded by papers, her eyes bloodshot. You shouldn't be here, Eleanor said, her voice hoarse. Neither should you, Clara shot back, setting a coffee cup on the desk. You can't hide forever. Eleanor laughed bitterly. This is my life, Clara. Hiding is what I do. Clara sat across from her, undeterred. Then let me in. We're in this together, remember? Eleanor's gaze softened, but her voice was firm. You don't understand. If the board loses faith in me, I lose everything. My father's legacy, my purpose. Your purpose isn't this company, Clara interrupted. It's you. Who you are, not what they want you to be. Eleanor stared, her walls crumbling. For the first time, she didn't argue. Instead, she reached for Clara's hand, holding it like an anchor. They devised a plan. A public statement to control the narrative. Eleanor would admit the engagement started as a strategy, but had grown into something real. It was a risk exposing their truth to a judgmental world, but Clara insisted. We're not lying anymore, she said. Let's own it. The press conference was set for the next day. Clara spent the night at Eleanor's penthouse, the air thick with tension. As they rehearsed their speech, Clara noticed Eleanor's hands trembling. You're scared, Clara said softly. Terrified, Eleanor admitted. I've never let anyone see me like this. Clara stepped closer, her heart pounding. Then let me be the first. Their eyes locked, and the space between them vanished. Eleanor's lips met Clara's in a kiss that was tentative at first, then desperate, years of restraint unraveling. Clara's hands tangled in Eleanor's hair, the world fading until it was just them two women daring to feel. The next morning they faced the cameras hand in hand. Eleanor's voice was steady as she spoke. Our engagement began as a business decision, but it's become something more. Clara is my partner in every sense. I'm done hiding who I am. The room erupted in questions, but Clara barely heard them. She squeezed Eleanor's hand, pride swelling in her chest. The city could judge them, but they'd chosen truth. The fallout was immediate. Some praised Eleanor's courage. Others called it a publicity stunt. Vivian was furious, cornering Eleanor after the conference. "You've humiliated us," she hissed. "This fling will ruin you." "It's not a fling," Eleanor said, her voice calm but unyielding. "It's who I am." Clara watched, awestruck, as Eleanor stood up to her mother for the first time. But the victory was short-lived. James, ever the opportunist, leaked more documents, financial records suggesting Eleanor had misused company funds to pay Clara. The accusations were false, but the damage was done. The board called an emergency meeting to vote on Eleanor's leadership. Clara felt helpless, but Eleanor was resolute. "I'll fight this," she said, her eyes blazing. "But I need you with me." Clara nodded, her heart full. "Always." They spent the night poring over documents, searching for evidence to clear Eleanor's name. As dawn broke, Clara found a discrepancy. James had manipulated the records to frame his sister. "We've got him," Clara said, triumphant. Eleanor looked at her, gratitude and something deeper in her eyes. "You're incredible," she whispered. Clara grinned. "You're not so bad yourself." The board meeting loomed, but Clara felt a spark of hope. They were fighting not just for Eleanor's company, but for their future neither had dared to dream of until now. The boardroom of Sterling Enterprises was a battlefield. Clara sat in the back, her heart pounding as Eleanor stood at the head of the table, facing a dozen skeptical faces. James lounged across from her, his smirk infuriatingly smug. Clara clutched the folder of evidence they'd compiled, her knuckles white. Eleanor's voice was steady as she presented their findings. "These records were falsified," she said, projecting the doctored financials onto a screen. "My brother orchestrated this to discredit me. Here's the proof." She laid out the discrepancy estimate stamps, altered signatures, hidden transactions. The board murmured, some nodding, others unconvinced. James scoffed. "This is desperate, Eleanor. You're grasping at straws." Clara couldn't stay silent. She stood, her voice cutting through the tension. "She's telling the truth. I found the original records. James paid someone to alter them." She slid the folder across the table, her gaze locked on James. "You underestimated us." The room fell silent. The board chair, an older woman named Margaret, examined the evidence, her expression unreadable. Finally she spoke. "This is serious. We'll need an independent audit." James's smirk faded, but he recovered quickly. "Fine. But let's not forget Eleanor's personal chaos. Her engagement is a sham. She's unfit to lead." Clara's blood boiled, but Eleanor's hand on her arm steadied her. "My personal life is irrelevant," Eleanor said. "What matters is this company. And I've given everything to it." Margaret nodded. "We'll vote next week." Until then, Eleanor remained CEO. As they left the boardroom, Clara exhaled, her body trembling with adrenaline. Eleanor pulled her into a quiet hallway, her eyes fierce. "You were amazing in there." Clara grinned. "We make a good team." That night, they celebrated quietly at Eleanor's penthouse, sharing takeout and laughter. But the weight of the upcoming vote lingered. Clara sensed Eleanor's fear, though she hid it well. "What if I lose everything?" Eleanor whispered, staring at the city skyline. Clara took her hand. "You won't. And even if you do, you'll still have me." Eleanor's eyes glistened. "You're too good for this, Clara." "No," Clara said softly. "I'm exactly where I'm meant to be." The next day they faced another challenge. Public opinion. A viral post on X accused Eleanor of exploiting Clara, painting her as a manipulative heiress. Clara was furious, but Eleanor was pragmatic. "We need to show them who we are," she said. "No more hiding." They agreed to an exclusive interview with a respected journalist, Sarah Chan. In a cozy studio they sat side by side, hands clasped. Sarah asked tough questions about the contract, the scandal, their feelings. Clara spoke first, her voice steady. I took the deal for the money. But I stayed for her. Eleanor's breath hitched. Clara showed me what it means to be brave, she said. I love her not for the cameras but for real. The confession hung in the air, raw and undeniable. Clara's heart soared and she squeezed Eleanor's hand. The interview aired that night and the response was overwhelming. Messages flooded in support, criticism, but mostly admiration for their courage. But James wasn't done. He leaked a private email from Eleanor, written years ago, where she expressed doubts about her ability to lead. The media pounced, and the board's confidence wavered. Clara felt the walls closing in, but Eleanor refused to break. We end this now, Eleanor said, her voice fierce. They tracked down the IT specialist James had hired to alter the records. After hours of negotiation, he agreed to testify against James in exchange for leniency. As the board vote approached, Clara and Eleanor grew closer, their bond forged in fire. They stole moments, kisses in the rain, late-night talks about dreams and fears. Clara began painting again, inspired by Eleanor's strength. Eleanor, in turn, found solace in Clara's warmth, a refuge from the chaos. The night before the vote, they lay in bed, the city quiet below. Whatever happens tomorrow, Eleanor whispered, you've changed my life. Clara kissed her softly. We've changed each other. The boardroom was packed, the air thick with tension. Clara sat beside Eleanor, her heart a drumbeat as the board members filed in. James was there, his confidence shaken but still defiant. The IT specialist's testimony had been submitted, along with a mountain of evidence proving James's sabotage. Margaret, the board chair, called the meeting to order. Eleanor stood, her presence commanding. I've spent my life proving myself to this company, she said. But I'm done proving who I am. I love Clara, and I'm proud of the woman I've become with her. If that's not enough for you, so be it. Clara's chest swelled with pride. She reached for Eleanor's hand, their fingers intertwining. The board deliberated for hours, the wait agonizing. Finally, Margaret returned with the verdict. Eleanor would remain CEO, and James would face legal consequences for his actions. The room erupted in murmurs, but Clara only saw Eleanor, her relief, her strength, her joy. They left the boardroom hand in hand, the weight of the past months lifting. The city was abuzz with their story. Clara and Eleanor became symbols of authenticity, their love a beacon for others. They moved forward together, no longer bound by contracts or pretense. Clara's paintings began selling, her art reflecting their journey, vibrant, raw, and unapologetic. Eleanor restructured Sterling Enterprises, prioritizing inclusivity and transparency. One evening, months later, they stood on the rooftop of Brew and Bliss, where it all began. The city sparkled below, and Clara held a Ringa simple band, etched with a tiny coffee cup. This isn't fake, she said, her voice trembling. Marry me, Eleanor. For real. Eleanor's eyes filled with tears. Yes, she whispered, pulling Clara into a kiss that felt like a promise. Their wedding was small, held in the botanical garden where they'd first felt the spark of something real. Friends, family, and even Mia from the coffee shop cheered as they exchanged vows. Vivian didn't attend, but Eleanor was at peace, surrounded by those who truly saw her. Clara and Eleanor's story didn't just shock the city, it changed it. They proved that love, in all its messy, beautiful forms, could rewrite the rules. And as they danced under the stars, the world felt infinite, their future a canvas of endless possibility. Thank you for listening. Like and subscribe to get notifications about next videos.